Okay, I do want to go over some of the elements in Evelyn, James Joyce's Evelyn, which is a story he wrote when he was about 22 years old, around 2000, around 1904. And so this is written not only when he's a young man, but before the Great War. But it already embodies many of the elements you've seen in the other works we've gone through already. Okay, the indifference that you saw in Soldier's Home, the wasteland and the lost nature of so many of the people that are mentioned in the poem. And here, what you're seeing in James Joyce is a young woman who is lost and trying to find her way, but she's in Ireland. Now, if you don't know about Ireland, Ireland had been colonized and occupied by the British. It had been occupied centuries before. In 1904, it was still occupied by the British. They would not retreat from Ireland until around 1921, when they actually partitioned Ireland. They did not retreat and allow it to become a republic until after World War II. And so at this time, James Joyce is writing about his homeland, but it's very much a colonized homeland. And so let me shrink myself up and I'll walk you through the early part of the story. Okay? And you get her sitting here just kind of looking out of over the streets, and few people are around. And then you get this at the end, towards the end of the first real paragraph. That was a long time ago. She and her brothers were all grown up. Her mother was dead. Tizzie Dunn was dead too. And the Waters had gone back to England. Everything changes. And now she was going away, like the others, to leave her home. She is, of course, here thinking of going away with Frank to Buenos Aires. One of the things you'll notice about this is early on, the air is very heavy. Buenos Aires is, of course, the capital of Argentina. That means good air. The air is suffocating in more ways than one in Dublin at this time. For a young woman, there is no avenue for agency to find your own way, to create your own life. And that's what she's seeing right now in the prospects with Frank, that she can do something and assert herself and get outside of it. Now, watch these different parts. Now, there isn't really a bad guy in this story. Okay? She starts talking about her home life and about what she had at school and things like that, and about this other man, this priest, whom her father had known. And he's left to Melbourne, to Australia. Many Irish had gone to Australia. And the question is kind of why. It's never answered. Okay. And then she starts thinking about leaving her home. Was that wise? And she starts to doubt herself. Again, think about what she's holding on to in Ireland and what she's looking at leaving with Frank for Buenos Aires. Going up a little bit, she has this as her job. This is her supervisor. Miss Hill, don't you see these ladies waiting? Look lively, Miss Hill. She would not cry many tears at leaving the stores. Now, this is something that's going to go on throughout the story, are different types of exploitation. Okay, most of us probably look at our careers ahead as something where we want to make something of ourselves. And this, what you see with Evelyn, this is not a job that has any fulfillment for her. It also doesn't have any money for her. Okay, money is a way where you can kind of achieve a level of independence. But notice later on that all of her money goes towards the family. They take it all, her father and her brothers, and so she gets nothing out of this. Both her family is exploiting her work, but her job is exploiting her. Okay? Let me shrink myself up again. And then it goes over her life with her brothers and her father. Now, this is a difficult situation because Joyce is very clear about not making any real bad guys. Her father and her brothers They are in many ways sympathetic. They're doing something that is common to Ireland at this time. They are taking their sister and daughter for granted. She has no, again, agency, no sense of herself. But also, her mother did the same thing with her. Okay, she talks about this at the end. Notice the way things take turns throughout. Very much there's nothing to stay for here. There's absolutely no appreciation of her. And it says it was hard work, a hard life. But now she was about to leave. It did not find. Now that she was about to leave, it did not. She did not find it wholly desirable life. And the thing to think about here with does she have any real sense of what a desirable life would be like? There is no real sense of women in Ireland being independent nor being assertive in living their own lives. There's no sense of fulfillment for her. She doesn't have, even though Frank is offering something, that is entirely abstract for her. That's not something she can see around her in Dublin at this time. Okay, let me shrink myself up again. This exploring a life with Frank comes up again. Frank never shows any hostility towards her as a person. None of the hostility that you see in her father, nor the exploitiveness of her brothers. He seems entirely supportful of her. But he doesn't seem to understand what she's been through in Ireland and how her sense of self has been wiped out. So he's promising her so much. He gives her flowers, but she, notice with this paragraph on the flowers, when he gives her the hyacinths and everything, she doesn't know what to make of it. Okay, she doesn't really know what to make of it. And with the father, this is her experience with the men in her life. He does this with it when he finds out about Frank. Of course, her father had found out about the affair and had forbidden her from having anything to do with him. In one sense, you might think, oh, this is a protective father scared for his daughter. But Frank hasn't done anything wrong to her. Think about what her father is afraid of, which is losing the one means of support that he has. Even though it's tenuous, that's all he has. I'm not at all trying to justify it, but look at the fear in her father. He is not a protective father at all. He's a frightened father, okay, at losing all of this. Okay? Let me make a couple more points. I do want you to make a sense of the end of the story on your own. Okay? And let's go up here. Her time was running out, but she continued to sit by the window, leaning her head against the curtain window, inhaling the odor of the dusty cretonne. Down far on the avenue, she could hear the street organ playing. She knew she knew the air, strange that it could come that very night and remind her of the promise to her mother. This is extremely important. Her mother's life is a model for the life that she's looking forward to. Her promise to keep her home together as long as she could. She remembered last night of her mother's illness. She was again in a closed dark room at the other side of the hall. Outside she heard the melancholy air of Italy. The organ player had been ordered to go away and given sixpence. She remembered her father striving back into the sick room saying, "Damned Italians coming over here." Now mind you, her memory of her mother is being interrupted by the anger of her father at the damned Italians, as he calls them. That loss of her mother is being circumvented by her father. But also the pull of her mother, the promise she made to her mother to take care of the family. In a lot of ways, in so many ways, the mother is asking the daughter to take her place, to continue this life of subservience to the father and to the brothers, to not have a life of her own. That guilt, that lack of any assertion of herself, not to go on and make a life of her own. And it's not a promise from her father to make a life of his own, but it's a promise to continue this exploitation of Evelyn here, for it to go on. Okay? And now I want to hold it there. I want you to read up through the end and get a good sense of what is driving Evelyn at the end of this story. Okay? I'll leave it there. Good luck with this, guys. Take care.